On the quiet edge of human space, far from famous battles and great cities, there was a farming world called Greenfall, a place built on soil, patience, and hope rather than weapons. And this was where the story truly began, not with generals or fleets, but with a single man standing alone under a burning sky, because on that day the sky itself seemed to break apart as alien ships tore through the clouds like falling stars made of fire. And Jonah Hawley, a simple farmer whose life had always been measured by seasons and harvests, stood frozen in his wheat field watching destruction fall from the heavens, feeling the ground shake beneath his boots while distant sirens cried out from the colony town, warning everyone that the war had finally reached them. And Jonah knew that humanity had been losing ground for years, pushed back system by older and stronger alien powers who believed humans were too young, too stubborn, and too weak to survive. Yet Jonah had never imagined the war would come to his farm, to the land his parents and grandparents had worked with their bare hands. And as a loud explosion echoed from the hills beyond his fields, curiosity and duty pulled him forward despite the fear tightening his chest, so he climbed into his battered truck, gripping the steering wheel with hands still stained by dirt and sweat, and drove toward the rising smoke, expecting to find wreckage or death, but instead finding something far stranger. Because lying in a broken crater was a sleek alien space bike, its engine glowing blue and sparking dangerously, and beside it lay an alien woman unlike any Jonah had ever seen. Her form tall and graceful, her skin pale as moonlight, her cloak torn and scorched, and when her helmet cracked open to reveal silver eyes that locked onto his, Jonah felt a deep instinctive fear, the kind that whispered this being was not just foreign but dangerous. Yet her voice was calm when she spoke, asking for help in broken English, explaining that hunters were coming and her transport was failing, and Jonah, raised on human values that said you did not abandon someone in need no matter the risk, made a choice that would change the fate of worlds, because instead of raising his rifle or driving away, he offered help, telling her to get into his truck. And though she studied him with a strange hunger behind her gaze, she accepted, and Jonah brought her back to his farm, hiding the damaged space bike in his repair barn where he fixed old machines and tools, working through the long night as the sounds of distant fighting echoed across the land, while the alien woman, who called herself Nyx, watched silently without sleep, without rest, observing every movement with an intensity that made Jonah uneasy yet oddly respected. And she spoke of being a traveler and a hunter searching for something ancient that had fallen to earth long ago. Though she refused to explain further, and as Jonah repaired the bike with human creativity and stubborn determination, using parts never meant for alien tech, the war outside grew worse, with the colony's shields weakening and alien ships gathering in the skies like storm clouds. And when Nyx stepped outside at dawn to look at the stars, her calm words carried a terrible truth as she said the world would burn, and Jonah, wiping grease from his hands, answered with quiet confidence born not from arrogance but from humanity's long history of surviving against impossible odds, saying they would stop them. And in that moment Nyx laughed softly, amused by his belief, seeing only a single farmer standing against a galaxy that wanted him erased. Yet she did not see what lay beneath the soil of Greenfall or within the heart of humanity, because deep underground something ancient began to stir, responding not to alien blood or power but to the presence of human hands above it. And while Nyx prepared for the hunters she knew were coming, her space bike finally repaired and humming with deadly promise, Jonah stood beside her, unaware of her true nature as an ancient vampire, unaware that he had just helped one of the most feared beings in the galaxy. And still he felt no regret, only the steady resolve that had carried humans through famine, war, and extinction-level threats before. And as alien ships descended closer and the first shots of the invasion lit the horizon, the simple farmer and the mysterious stranger stood together at the edge of a coming storm, bound by a choice made without fear or hatred, a choice that would soon force the galaxy to learn what happens when humanity refuses to bow, even when the odds are endless and the enemy is ancient and cruel. The dawn brought fire and chaos to Greenfall, and the sky was filled with the dark shapes of alien dropships moving like a swarm of predatory insects, their engines screaming through the atmosphere while plasma bolts rained down on the colony below, tearing buildings apart and turning once quiet streets into burning ruins. And Jonah Hawley, the simple farmer who had spent his life tending wheat fields, stood at the edge of his barn roof, gripping his rifle as his heart pounded in his chest, watching the enemy swarm and feeling the weight of helplessness settle over him. Yet in that same moment, behind him, the repaired alien space bike hummed to life, its engine glowing with lethal energy, and Nix, the silver-eyed hunter he had saved, mounted it with an almost supernatural grace, her presence alone a signal that the battle would be unlike anything the humans had ever faced. And when she turned to him, her calm voice held both warning and promise as she told him the hunters had come for her. And Jonah, feeling fear but refusing to abandon her or the people below, simply asked if she needed help, knowing in his bones that if he did not fight, no one would, and together, human and alien rode into the inferno of battle, the dust and smoke of destruction swirling around them as they charged toward the alien forces who had come to claim the planet. And the first clash was immediate and brutal, because the enemy were the Karnath Bloodlords, an ancient race who had dominated countless worlds and who drank the life of both humans and aliens, alike to maintain their strength. And their soldiers were strong, cruel, and relentless, clad in dark armor that seemed to swallow the light, wielding weapons that melted steel and bone with a single touch. Yet Nix moved among them with impossible speed, striking with precision and savagery that left Jonah staring in disbelief, her hands tearing through the enemy as if they were nothing, her movements fluid, her attacks deadly. And with each enemy she defeated, she absorbed their life force, healing her wounds almost instantly while leaving a trail of stunned and broken soldiers in her wake. And Jonah, though only a farmer, felt a fire ignite within him as he saw the human militia rally around him, ordinary people with simple weapons facing impossible odds, and he realized that fear could not rule them. That desperation could be transformed into courage, and so he ran into the fray alongside them, dodging blasts, firing his rifle, and using every trick he knew from years of hunting wildlife and maintaining his farm to survive in chaos. And together, humans and Nix began to hold the line, each moment a struggle for survival as the enemy pressed harder, their sheer numbers threatening to crush everything in sight. And yet the humans adapted, creating traps from the debris of shattered buildings, using farming equipment as weapons and combining tactics that the alien invaders did not expect. And Jonah saw a spark of hope in the terrified but determined faces of his neighbors, realizing that humanity's strength lay not in advanced weapons or fleets but in ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to give up even when facing a predator that could end them all. And while the humans fought with determination, Nix pressed forward to the heart of the battlefield, her mission to find and secure the ancient relic that had drawn the Karnath to Greenfall, a relic left by a long-dead civilization capable of immense power, a machine that responded only to human touch and blood. And as Jonah covered her, holding back waves of alien soldiers, he saw the first glimpse of the relic glowing beneath the fields, pulsing as if it were alive and aware of the approaching combat. And Nix, as usual, composure faltered for the first time as she realized that the relic's activation could tip the battle in their favor. But it demanded a price, one that only a human could pay, And Jonah, seeing no choice and understanding the stakes, approached the relic and placed his hands upon it, feeling a surge of pain and energy course through his body as the ancient machine recognized the human essence and responded with raw destructive power. And beams of light shot from the ground into the sky, shredding alien ships in a display of overwhelming force, forcing the Karnath fleet to falter and retreat as the humans' makeshift defenses held stronger than ever. And throughout the chaos, Nyx moved with deadly efficiency, cutting down the remaining invaders while keeping Jonah alive, protecting him even as she revealed her true nature, her silver eyes flashing red and her teeth sharp, admitting she was not just a hunter, but a vampire of immense age and power, a creature feared across the galaxy. And Jonah, far from recoiling, simply nodded and continued to fight, trusting that humanity's courage and his own determination were enough to face even this terrifying ally. And together, they turned what seemed like certain defeat into a hard-won victory, with humans rallying and holding the ground, the Karnath retreating in confusion and fear, and the field before them littered with wreckage, smoke, and the bodies of both human and alien. A brutal reminder of the cost of survival, yet also a testament to what could be achieved when ordinary people refused to surrender to impossible odds. And as Jonah collapsed from exhaustion and pain from touching the relic, Nyx caught him in her arms, her expression something like awe and respect, questioning why a fragile human would risk everything for a world so young and untested. And Jonah, smiling despite the pain, simply said it was because the world belonged to humans as much as anyone. And no matter how powerful the universe seemed, they would fight for it. And in that moment, the battlefield seemed to pause, the smoke and fire freezing for a heartbeat, as the bond between human and ancient hunter, between determination and power, became undeniable. And though the war was far from over, Greenfall had survived its greatest test. Humans had proven their worth against an ancient and merciless enemy. And Jonah had shown that even a simple farmer could ignite hope and strength in the hearts of many, changing the course of the battle with courage, ingenuity, and unwavering spirit, proving that the smallest person, with the simplest tools and a brave heart, could stand against the greatest threats the galaxy could throw at them, and that sometimes survival and victory were not just about advanced weapons or age-old power, but about refusing to give up, refusing to bow, and trusting in the strength that comes from humanity itself, which in the end is what allowed the humans to hold Greenfall, activate the ancient weapon, and force the Karnath fleet to retreat, leaving the survivors to breathe, recover, and understand that even in the darkest hour, when all seemed lost, human courage, creativity, and heart could turn despair into triumph and make the galaxy remember that humanity was never a species to underestimate. After the fierce battle for Greenfall ended, silence fell over the burned fields, broken only by the crackling of smoldering wreckage and the distant groans of the wounded. And the alien invaders had retreated, leaving behind the scars of their attack and the bodies of those who had fallen. Yet in the quiet, the humans who survived began to understand the cost of victory and the power of their own courage. Because though the town was damaged and lives were lost, the simple farmer who had helped an alien stranger activate an ancient weapon had shown the galaxy that humans could rise, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And Jonah Hale's sacrifice was not forgotten, for he had touched the relic that lay beneath the farm, giving it life and destroying the enemy fleet with his human essence. And though he did not survive the surge of energy, his spirit, bravery, and ingenuity became a symbol for everyone who had fought alongside him. And the survivors gathered around the relic, mourning him but also feeling a strange sense of pride, knowing that it had been a human hand, a human heart, that had turned the tide. not technology or superior numbers alone, and while they grieved, Nyx, the ancient vampire who had hidden among them, watched from the shadows, her silver eyes reflecting both sorrow and admiration, because she had come to understand that humanity's strength was not in her power, nor in the relic itself, but in the courage and determination that ordinary people could summon when faced with impossible threats. And she carried this lesson with her as she moved to the Galactic Council weeks later, presenting herself as both witness and protector, explaining that humans, when united and determined, were a force that no alien empire could ignore, and that they were not weak or insignificant, as many had believed, and the council listened, uneasy at the story of a single farmer standing against the ancient Karnath bloodlords, activating a weapon of untold power. And even a being like Nyx, a predator feared across galaxies, had been humbled and impressed by the humans' bravery. And as she spoke, the human colonies began to rebuild, stronger and more organized than before, transforming farms into fortified centers, ordinary people into soldiers, and learning to combine their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and willpower into a force that could defend their worlds. And across the galaxy, whispers spread from one alien empire to another, spreading both fear and respect for humanity. Because if a single farming colony could rise and destroy a powerful fleet, what might humanity do if fully united, trained, and prepared? And while the memory of destruction lingered, it was accompanied by hope, for humans understood that survival was not guaranteed. Yet they had survived, and that knowledge gave them strength. And deep beneath Greenfall, the ancient relic slept once more, its energy contained, waiting for another hand, another human who might rise when needed, a silent reminder that humanity was tied to the galaxy in ways neither aliens nor history could fully predict. And while Nyx remained among them, a guardian and teacher in her own strange way, she did so not out of obligation but out of respect for the species that had welcomed her aid, trusted her, and fought beside her without fear. And through this partnership, humans began to learn from her, adapting tactics, strategies, and even small methods of combat that leveraged their creativity and resilience, making them even more formidable for the battles that would surely come. Because in the galaxy, power alone was not enough. Determination, courage, and the willingness to act in the face of fear were just as critical. And the humans had shown all of these qualities in abundance. And as they rebuilt, stories of Jonah Hale, the simple farmer who became a hero, were passed on from one colony to another, inspiring new generations to understand that heroism could come from anywhere, that even the most ordinary life could spark extraordinary change. And through these stories, humanity's reputation grew, for the galaxy saw that they were not to be dismissed or underestimated, that their farms, their hands, and their hearts could be as deadly as the most advanced alien weapon if needed. And while losses were remembered and honored, the focus remained on the future, on what could be built from the ashes, and on the knowledge that humans were not just survivors, but a species capable of shaping the fate of entire worlds. And Nyx, standing silently on the edge of Greenfall, watching the humans restore their colony and train their militia, understood that her time among them had changed her perception as well, that the creature who had once hunted, killed, and feared nothing now felt an unusual bond with humans, recognizing that even the most fragile-looking beings could possess unmatched strength when driven by love, loyalty, or the instinct to protect. And as she looked at the horizon where the sun rose over repaired fields, rebuilt homes, and determined faces, she realized that humanity's true power lay not in their machines or weapons, but in their unwavering spirit, their ingenuity, and their refusal to surrender even when the universe seemed against them. And in that understanding, Nyx committed herself to remaining a guardian in the shadows, guiding when necessary, teaching when possible, and striking when enemies underestimated humans, because she knew that no force, no matter how ancient or powerful, could withstand the combination of human courage, determination, and creativity. And as months turned to years, the colonies spread these lessons across space, creating networks of fortified worlds, communication systems, and trained forces that relied on human cleverness, adaptability, and unity, turning each planet into a beacon of resilience. And aliens who had once thought Earth an easy target now hesitated, unsure how to engage a species that had proven that even a simple farmer could rise, wield unimaginable power through courage and ingenuity, and change the outcome of battles that should have been impossible. And through all of this, the story of Jonah Hale remained a cornerstone of human culture, a reminder that one person, one choice, and one act of courage could echo across the galaxy, shaping the future in ways no weapon or strategy alone could achieve. And as Greenfall thrived once more, children played among repaired fields, soldiers trained in innovative ways, and humans, now aware of their potential, looked to the stars with confidence, knowing that whatever threats came, they could face them. For the combination of human heart, mind, and will was a force even the oldest and strongest enemies had to respect. And deep below, the relic rested silently, waiting, while Nyx remained vigilant and the galaxy began to understand a simple truth. Humans might be young, they might be underestimated, but they would fight, survive, and rise, and their legacy, begun with a single farmer standing against impossible odds, would never be forgotten.